Hello and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about my surgery experience, my duodenojejunoectomy, uh, and how that whole thing went down. And I'm going to be talking about how the self-love path really helped me to get through the surgery and get through everything that had to happen for diagnosis and all these things. And I'm also going to be talking about how I'm probably not going to be talking a lot about this moving forward because this is going to be quite the journey and I have no idea really how it's going to go. And um, I'm going to just be talking about sort of boundaries that I'm going to be setting with talking about my health and talking about stuff like this because I think it's just really healthy to have a good balance of being authentic and being truthful and sharing your story while also having boundaries that make you feel comfortable. Because being on the internet, a lot of people kind of assume this means that your life is just an open book and that you kind of owe everyone your entire story and your entire journey all the time. And again, to a degree that can be healthy and to a degree that can be really helpful. And then in other ways it's not, and it's kind of toxic. So we'll talk about that more at the end. So also, if you're watching this on YouTube and you see me like looking up and down, and I don't look at the camera the whole time, it's because I'm also on Instagram at the same time while I'm recording these. And sometimes I get comments up there, and so sometimes my facial expressions don't match what I'm saying, and that's just because I'm getting comments that I'm reading and stuff like that. So if you're ever watching this on YouTube, that's kind of why that's happening. Okay. The last thing I want to say is if you're watching this on YouTube, for the next several weeks, I have videos coming out that were filmed before I got diagnosed and that were filmed while I was still on that drug that was helping with my mast cell stuff, but was causing me to lose weight. So I might look a little scary in the following videos in the next couple of weeks. And I just want you to know that those are past videos. And then moving forward, I have no idea how this healing process is going to go. I have no idea how I'm going to look. So just be warned that, like, don't be worried about me, okay? Because I'm doing okay. I have doctors who are around me. I'm not doing this on my own. And like I said, I have no idea what this kind of healing process is going to look like. I have no idea how I'm going to look over the next couple of years. So that's kind of a part of this. This is a whole new world for me too. So don't be worried. I'm okay. It's just healing is weird, and healing is going to be a roller coaster. Okay. So if you haven't already done so, you can watch my whole video about how I got diagnosed with superior mesenteric artery syndrome and the whole journey that went on there. That was the last video I put out on YouTube and the last live that I did. I'll put the link in the descriptions. And so today I'm just going to be telling you about the surgery process, and let's start with that. Okay. So basically, again, to quickly sort of wrap up, I was doing pretty good with my health in all things considered, right? Like I had figured out how to sort of support myself with my very, very poor digestion and pain after every single meal that I eat and all of that stuff. I had made lots of progress over the many years of taking care of myself and being good to myself and learning to just kind of support this body the way that it functioned. And I was doing okay and figured out that I had mast cell activation syndrome and all of these other things that were going on that I was trying to treat and that I was trying to, right? I had SIBO, I had chronic gut infections, I had all this stuff going on that I was doing my best to manage. And in early May of 2023, I went on a drug that was helping with my mast cell stuff and helping with my energy and helping with my body temperature and all this stuff. But it was slowly making me lose weight. And we were doing everything that we could within the, of course, restrictions that I had with mast cell activation syndrome and my digestive issues that I now understand was a part of my digestive system being jammed under and already all this. taking exercise down as much as possible, increasing calories as much as possible, and it just wasn't stopping the weight loss. So I went off the drug in December and continued to lose weight and was continuing to lose weight. And we were told that it could take like up to 6 weeks for the drug to get out of my system. And with it about around the 6 week mark, I just got totally freaked out. I was at the lowest weight I'd ever been. And the weight loss didn't seem to be stopping, and I was eating as much as possible, and I was literally not exercising at all, not moving, like being as sedentary as possible. And I was just like, okay, there has to be something seriously wrong here. So on a Tuesday, I went to the doctor and I asked for blood tests for cancer markers, for my liver, my kidneys, my electrolytes, everything. I got a whole workup done. On Thursday, he called me and he said, okay, everything's normal, everything looks great, except for you have a couple of cancer markers that are high and concerning, and I think you should go to the hospital and get a scan. So Thursday night, went to the hospital. They said, we can't see you till tomorrow. So on Friday, I got in at 9 a.m. for a CT scan, and they did everything. Like, I had to drink the drink. They did the radioactive stuff through the vein. They did it through rectum. Like, it was, the whole CT scan thing. So did that at 9 in the morning. Came back for my results at 2:30. The cancer doctor said, okay, you don't have cancer. There's no signs of anything like that. You have superior mesenteric artery syndrome, which is where your duodenum is shoved down in between two arteries, and it is cutting off the flow of food through your system. And basically, because so great, thanks again, America, for your direct sell Miami on the way vacation recall home. Okay, I think that might be spam. So blocking the flow of food through my system. So because I went on that weight loss, or because I went on that drug that caused the weight loss, there's usually a tendon that has a fat sac around it that protects between the stomach and the artery. And because of the weight loss, I lost the weight on that, and it made it even tighter than it ever was. And it made the squishing worse than ever. And that's essentially why I got diagnosed. So kind of going on that drug sort of saved my life, because other than that, I think I probably would have just continuing on and being fine and managing it. So that was kind of a miracle. And it was a miracle that the doctor found it. So they immediately sent me to the gastro guy. I got in like right away. He said, okay, we need to do surgery. They were thinking again, like, because I was so underweight, that I was probably like, my electrolytes were all messed up and my liver was probably all messed up, and I was going to have to do a whole refeeding process and blah, 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 blah. But then they looked at my test results that I already had, realized everything was totally fine. I was cleared for surgery. So this was on Friday, and they said, okay, so we're going to check you in on Monday, and we're going to do surgery on Tuesday. And so I was like, wow, okay. So I essentially came home and rearranged my life, packed a bag on Sunday, got all ready to come to the hospital, and then Monday morning we checked into the hospital. And so Monday was, basically getting checked in the morning, getting into my room, getting all unpacked, getting settled in there. They did an x-ray and they did an EKG, and everything came back totally normal and everything was great. And then, one sec, I have to just, there we go. So I had to get all the stuff prepped. I basically just did a stretch that night, and got ready for surgery the next day. So then on Tuesday morning, they woke me up super early, and I showered, and they got me all ready for the surgery. They said, if you have, like, if your blood pressure drops or if there's lots of bleeding, we might have to keep you in the ICU for a couple of, so, and then on Monday night, I wasn't allowed to eat, right? So I had to liquid fast that night. So I just did juices and and basically whatever I could drink to get some calories. And also, yeah, I forgot to say, trigger warning for the rest of this video. I'm going to be talking about surgery. I'm going to be talking about open wounds. I'm going to be talking about fasting. I'm going to be talking about any of these things that can be triggering. So just putting that warning out there now, if these are things that you don't want to hear about or that don't feel good for you to listen to, please take care of yourself and don't listen to this, okay? Okay, so there's that. So that was Monday night. Tuesday morning, up bright and early, ready to go. So they wheeled me down to the waiting room, and just that is the kind of pre-op waiting room is quite the military operation. Everyone's just like going around checking charts. Everyone's very busy. Everyone's doing whatever they're doing. I was just like trying to meditate and calm myself and be regulated. And then my anesthesiologist came and saw me and said, okay, like, so they hooked me up with fluids for a bit. And then when it was time for my operation, I think it was around 8:30-ish, they wheeled me in to the room. It was very, very cold. And then they put me on a bed that was heated. And then they gave me a little hose that was pumping in hot air so that made me warm. And that was nice. And then they hooked me up to the anesthesia. They put the gas mask on, and I just remember thinking, oh, it's not really working. I'm feeling floaty, but I'm not falling asleep. And then the next thing I knew, I was opening my eyes, and it was 10:45. And so I opened my eyes and basically just was in 10 out of 10 pain. And my body kind of started going into shock. I started shaking. I couldn't breathe. Right? And I had a tube down my nose and I had a tube down my throat and I couldn't breathe and I was like gasping for air and they were like, are you okay? And I was like, no. But so I was just kind of trying to watch myself have a panic attack, essentially going into shock. And they gave me painkillers and I kind of just like came to for about 15 minutes. And then they wheeled me back up to my room. And so that was good. So surgery went fine. Everything was totally normal. And so essentially what they do in the surgery is they just cut off the duodenum. So there's your stomach, your duodenum, which then connects to your jejunum, and then to your ileum, which then connects into your large intestine. And that's kind of like the sequence of how your digestive system goes. And because my duodenum was shoved under the artery and it was shoved under there for so long, instead of trying to like dislodge it or anything like this, they just literally cut it off. And then they take the jejunum and attach it to your stomach. So that's the surgery that I got. So they cut off my duodenum, they just left it in there, and then brought the jejunum back up to the stomach, connected that in, and that is the surgery. So that was my surgery. And I was in a lot of pain, and they had a drain down my nose and a drain in my abdomen. And basically, I feel like the pain that was the worst pain was actually the gas pain. Because having surgery, obviously, and then being in a state of my colon just never having worked, my abdomen was just filled with gas. And nothing was moving because I just had surgery and everything was in shock, and then you're not eating and you're not doing anything, so everything's just pooling and pooling. And I remember telling them that the tube in my nose was making it worse. It was making it so that nothing could drain, and it was just like trying to move, but it couldn't. So they took the tube out, which was nice. And then they put me on an IV drip, and I was on an IV drip for 2 days straight. So nothing going in, nothing, no drinking, nothing for 2 days, just on IV fluids. And so the first 2 days were, I think what you would expect after a major surgery. I mostly just laid around and was in pain and was on pain meds, and they came and checked my vitals every 4 hours, and I did some writing and I did some Instagram, and I kept myself busy with yoga nidra and family visiting, and that was basically what it was. But it was a lot of pain, obviously. And like I said, I think most of the pain was coming from gas because it was just, and this is what I hear from most people who have abdominal surgery, is that like any kind of surgery in your abdomen, is that the surgical site doesn't even hurt as bad as just the trapped gas hurts. So there was that, and then I had a drain in, so having to kind of like carry around this little sack of fluid and blood, which was kind of gross. And that was the first 2 days. And then on the third day, I started to be able to drink some fluid, so I started to drink water. And that was the first time in my life I literally ever felt fluid or something just move through my system. And it was one of the craziest experiences of my entire life, because I had literally never felt what it felt like to not take something in and then just have it sit there and pool and expand in my stomach and be painful. So that was kind of a revelation, to just, for the first time in my life, feel what it felt like for something to flow through my intestine. That was crazy. And then the following day, I was allowed to start drinking. So I was allowed to have a half a liter of my own juice and coconut. So I had a coconut water, and I had a quarter of a liter of sugarcane juice, because by the time I was drinking it, it felt like it was expanding, and I got really freaked out that I was gonna like tear my stitches. So yeah, I kind of spent that day slowly sipping on a coconut, seeing if that was going to activate my SIBO, which I don't think that it did. And it started to help to like move the gas a little bit, which was nice. And I even think that I went for my first like walk around the room that day, which was nice, to just kind of move my body a little bit. But it was like 3 days at that point of absolutely no nutrition. The glucose drip was like 100 calories or something over 24 hours, so it was like very not a lot, and I was quite depleted. So that was Thursday, I believe, the Thursday after the surgery. Friday after the surgery, I was allowed to have a full liter of sugarcane juice. So I had a full liter of sugarcane juice that day, and it went down and it was fine. And I was thinking like, okay, great, this is awesome. On Friday, they removed the drain, which also felt really good. Marcus came to visit me at the hospital, and we went for a little, like, maybe like 10-minute walk around the hospital, and that felt really nice. And then Saturday, I was cleared to go home. So on Saturday morning, the doctor came in, just checked my scar. Everything was fine. Because I had had no issues drinking, I hadn't had any nausea, I hadn't had any vomiting, everything had gone smooth. He said I could go. So essentially that morning he came and checked me, and then we had to wait for an hour for them to do paperwork. And then we got the paperwork, we went downstairs, and then they're like, oh, your bill's not ready, so you have to wait for another hour. So we sat and we waited for another hour in a coffee shop, and by that time, right, like I'm totally stir crazy, and I'm just like, please get me out of here. I just want to go home. This sucks. I hate being in the hospital so much. I hate everything about this. Please take me home. So yeah, but I was trying to be grateful, and I was trying to realize that, this was the end, and then we were going to get to go home. So then eventually we got checked out. I think I was checked out around noonish. And we got in a Grab, came home, did laundry, got all washed up, and I was home. And then that night I had another couple liters of juice, and I tried aloe for the first time, and that did not go well. It was too gloopy, too thick. It didn't feel very good on my system. And then so that was Saturday, and then on Sunday I had my first food in a week. I had jackfruit puree, and it was delicious, and I loved it, and it hurt a lot. And so basically, since then, I've been slowly working my way back up to eating what I was eating before. I'm back to eating more than I was eating before now, and just trying to regain the weight that I lost, regain the weight that I lost in the hospital, regain the weight that I lost because of that drug. And now, yeah, so it's been exactly 2 weeks since my surgery now today. And it has been a complete roller coaster the entire time. I can be honest about that. Kind of like one day to the next, figuring out the things that are working and figuring out the things that don't work. It has been really challenging and quite painful. So to be completely honest, I have yet to experience pain-free eating because now I'm healing from surgery. And at the same time, I can say that I am in it feels like I'm in a whole new body. It feels like this body, right, is absolutely not the body that I have had for the last 35 years of my life. And a lot of the things that I was doing before in terms of how I was ordering my food and the supplements that I was taking and the things that I was doing to moderate all the gut infection and all that stuff is now just way too harsh and way too much for this new system that no longer has these infections and is in a totally different place. So yeah, it's kind of been oscillating between experiencing some of the best days that I've had where it feels like food is moving through my system and it's painful at the surgery site, but other than that it's okay. And some days it's like very, very, very bad and it feels like it's worse than before and like nothing has gotten better. My energy levels are sort of all over the place. Some days I feel totally energized and like I am a normal person, and other days I feel like it is a battle to get out of bed and to move and to do stuff. And that's sort of where we're at. And so first, does anyone have any questions about the surgery or about anything that I've said so far? Because I know I kind of rushed through that and I didn't say a lot of details. If you want more details, I can give them. But it was really just a lot of sitting around in the hospital and waiting for time to pass, and working and just doing stuff in between, being in lots of pain and trying to sleep and not really being able to sleep and all that stuff. So yeah, if anyone has any comments or questions, I'll just wait for a sec. And if not, I'll hoping things get better soon. Yeah, me too. Yeah, because I think the more important thing to talk about again is, so how am I managing all the pain? So I'm currently completely off pain meds, and I think a big part of this is like, right, I've just been in pain my whole life. So yeah, okay, and how did the surgeon describe your future food intake after the process? Yeah, that's a good question. Okay, so how I'm managing the pain currently is, yeah, I'm really just trying to figure out how to eat and drink in a way right now that supports the healing. So I know that I can't do as much volume as I used to do at once, even though, right, like my stomach was all stretched out and I would just eat all my food at once at night. I'm learning to space out my liquids a little bit, so no drinking liquids with food. I can't do that anymore. Not doing anything gloopy, like I can't do aloe vera. Like I literally lived on like blended aloe vera for years and years and years to try to get my colon to function. And now it's too gloopy, it's too thick. My body doesn't like it. So doing fluids and then trying to eat slower and chewing really, really well and making sure that I'm just slowly stretching out the surgical site. So it's like, it's manageable pain. Like it kind of feels like maybe like a 5 or a 4 out of 10, mostly at the surgery site. And if I have trapped gas, a little bit of that. But like I say, that's kind of, it's normal for me. So I'm not on pain meds. I'm just doing what I'm doing right there. And like I say, I'm just slowly trying to figure out. So yeah, like I say, most of the supplements that I was taking before, to manage SIBO and to manage all these things, I don't need to be taking anymore because I don't have SIBO anymore, and I don't have all of that stuff because they literally cut that part of my intestine out. And now that I have motility, and now that I'm going to be not drinking with my food, I probably will have more stomach acid, which will mean I probably won't be susceptible to SIBO again. So I'm off a lot of the supplements I used to have to take like every single day just to function. And it's really good, but yeah, that's how I'm kind of managing the pain, is I'm really slowly figuring out every single day, a little bit more about what this new body sort of needs. And now, how did the surgeon describe your food intake after the procedure? He basically said, just go back to eating like normal, which obviously I'm not going to do, because what I was doing before was a huge amount of managing a condition I no longer have. So the other thing is that I've done research and studies on people who have had what I had and had the surgery that I had, and a lot of them seem to not necessarily return to like a normal life. It seems like a lot of them stay pretty underweight or very, very low weight, and it takes a long time to recover. And again, so this is why I'm kind of saying, like, my biggest honest thing that I have to say is I am not 100% sure how this is going to look in the future, because right, I'm still in the phase now of just having had abdominal surgery. So how long do they say that recovery would be and expect for the pain to last? Like, yeah, like I literally have no idea. I have no idea how long it takes for a surgery like this to stop hurting at some point. So I would say, right, like, it's a little bit better and a little bit less every single day. And at this point, it really is kind of more determined on how much trapped gas I have. Sorry for having to talk about that so much. But when there's very little of that, and I am not drinking with my meals, and I am eating a reasonable portion, things are moving through it like in a way that they never have before. And it's like sore at the surgery site, but it's not like intense pain anymore. So I'm thinking within the next couple of weeks, I should be in a place where it doesn't hurt anymore. And that is what I'm very, very, very much looking forward to. And then, like I say, I don't know what this means for my mast cell activation syndrome. I don't know what this means for my other allergies. I don't know what this is going to mean for a lot of things. Like I still haven't tried high FODMAP foods, because I'm just kind of waiting to see, to make sure that I'm okay with the stuff that I was able to tolerate before. Also with my colon function, right? Because I have never had a functioning colon, and it's very possible that the reason that was the case was because the peristalsis was getting cut off at the duodenum, and the peristalsis is a wave-like contraction that's supposed to move throughout your entire system. So if it's getting cut off at one point, it would make sense that it doesn't reactivate itself anywhere else down the line. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to start having, right, like normal movements on my own without having to take motility drugs or without having to do colonics. I literally have no idea how much food I can tolerate in terms of my allergies and mast cell activation. I don't know if I'm going to continue to be allergic to the same things I've always been allergic to, or if that's going to change. So again, I looking forward to like what is eating going to look like for me in the future. It's literally for me right now having to take things one day at a time and literally retrying everything for the first time, because I have no idea what this new body needs and what this new body now reacts to, what this new body can handle. Because even the fact that I was operating on such little food, like in comparison to what the normal person eats, and was able to maintain even just like a kind of reasonable higher weight than this for so many years, is probably because my cortisol levels were so high and my metabolism was so slow, probably because of the fact that my body was in such a deep stress state because of having this digestive issue. So it's very possible that this is going to totally change my hormone levels and my metabolism and how much food I'm burning on a regular basis. And of course, it's taken like all the inflammation out of my body. So I know that for a long time, I think I was maintaining a weight that looked at least relatively normal. Even though I was still underweight, I think I didn't look quite as underweight as I probably actually was, because I was so swollen and in a puffy and edema from the chronic infection, that again, I thought I was probably at a higher weight than I actually was. So now that all of the inflammation has drained out and I'm not reacting, and so I can definitely say that I'm already eating more than I was ever able to tolerate before and not have a histamine reaction. Basically, any other time that I tried to eat as much as I'm eating now, my entire body would go into full-fledged histamine reaction. I would have swelling of my neck, and I would have like a permanent headache. My digestion would absolutely just seize and stop, and nothing would move through, and I would be in the worst pain. And I would just swell and get hives, and all of these things would happen. And now that's not happening. I'm able to eat more than I've ever been able to eat before, and I'm not having an allergic reaction. So already things have shifted. I'm in a totally different body than I ever have been in. So again, I don't know what this is going to look like. I have no idea how long it's going to take me to gain weight. I have no idea how long the weight gain is going to last, because like I said, like I went back to eating what I was eating before, and I've been barely maintaining my weight, and I'm not exercising at all. And I used to exercise for like an hour and a half a day. Like I was very, very active. And so obviously my metabolism has changed quite a bit already, and not being swollen and not being in a reaction and not being in a constant infection, I just think it's completely changed the way that I look. And so again, I don't know how much food I can eat. I don't know how much food I have to eat. I don't know how much activity I'm going to be able to do. This is all completely new to me. So this is why I'm kind of transitioning into saying, for the next several months or maybe years, I might not talk about this again, because like I said, I have a lot of foundational understandings about the body and how the body works, and deep tissue cleansing, and all of these things that I've gotten from the wellness world over the last several decades of study that have absolutely saved my life. And I know that I'm in this shape that I'm in, and I was able, like I literally even got out of the hospital a whole day earlier than he usually has people stay in there, because I was doing so well and my organs were functioning so well, and my blood levels were also good, and they had literally no concerns about me. I went for my first follow-up yesterday, and he was basically just like, okay, we'll see you in 6 months. Like, you're fine. Everything's great, because I'm not having any side effects. I'm having no refeeding syndrome. There's no cause for concern. Like I didn't have any swelling, I didn't have any vomiting, I didn't have any nothing, no blood pressure dropping, everything was normal. So I know that I have some foundational tools for health that I'm going to stick with, and I'm back to making sure that every single thing that goes into my body is incredibly nutrient dense, and like there's no wasted calories, that's for sure. Everything is super high nutrition, but again, I don't know what this is going to look like for me moving forward. So that's why I'm saying for the near future, I don't see myself talking a lot about this anymore, because I still have to figure this out, right? Like it would be completely irresponsible of me to come out and say like, these are the good things and these are the things that work and these are the things you should be doing and this is how to treat mast cell activation syndrome and this is how to recover from this kind of surgery, because I'm still figuring it out. Like I'm going to have to do this on my own again, because there really isn't guidance from the medical system. The medical system just told me to go back to eating what I was eating before, which of course, like I say, is completely not adequate now. So I have to figure this all out in the future. Okay, so then that leads into the next question is, what's been your thoughts on the uncertainty of how things are going to unfold in the future, if any? And that's the biggest thing that I'm dealing with, right? Is that I have no idea what my new routine is going to look like, right? Like I have no idea if I'm going to continue to need colon hydrotherapy. I have no idea if I'm going to, when and if I'm going to be able to exercise again and what that's going to look like and how many calories I'm going to have to eat to support that. I don't know what I am and am not going to be allergic to. I don't know any of these things. Yeah? So it is incredibly uncertain. And I am someone who, you used to be able to set your watch to my routine, right? Like I was so incredibly disciplined with my health and with my work and with everything that I was doing, because I had to be, right? I was in chronic pain. I was in constant agony. I had a lot of things on my plate, and life had to get done whether I felt good or not. And I had to nourish myself whether I felt like it or not. So everything was just done by a schedule. And eating was done by a schedule, drinking was done by a schedule, cleaning my colon was done by a schedule, working was done by a schedule, relaxation time was done by a schedule, meditation was done by a schedule, because that was how I managed my life, right? And when you're in chronic pain and you're trying to run a business and you're trying to have a marriage and you're trying to keep yourself alive and you're trying to have a life outside of those things, that's kind of what it has to look like. And so now, again, everything has changed and everything is different, and I don't know what I'm going to need even one day from the next so far. It's literally been a complete roller coaster of, I don't even know really how what I did yesterday went until today, and then how that's going to affect me and what I'm going to need to do to either clean up from that or learn from that or be like, okay, that worked, do that again today, kind of thing. So in terms of the uncertainty, this is where the self-love path really comes in, right? Like I am returning to the same concepts and the same foundational roots of this self-love path that I have been working ever since 2012, when I had the revelation that self-love was the only way. And that, so right in 2012, I had the revelation that I had been trying to control my body and trying to control my personality and trying to change myself to be something that someone would love for 10 years, and it wasn't working, and really for my whole life. And I came to that revelation that like I did not have control over my body weight. I did not have control over how my body looked, because if I had, I would have changed it by then. Like after 10 years of trying, I figured I would have been able to do something about it. And realizing that my personality was the way that it was, and I was going to have to learn to support that and learn tools for that, and being very uncertain about my future, and being very uncertain about what life was supposed to look like for me, in terms of knowing that I couldn't live in the Western world, and knowing I didn't want to work a normal 9 to 5, but having no university education, having no qualifications, right? Like it was very much kind of like in 2012. What are you gonna do? You're gonna have to learn to trust yourself. You're gonna have to learn to take this one step at a time, and you're gonna have to learn how to learn from reality, and feel things out, and figure them out one thing at a time based on results and how things happen, and following what feels good and following what feels true, and relying on yourself to do that, and relying on myself to know what was right for me, and learning how to love myself enough that I could make mistakes, and that I could fall, and that I could learn. And I'm basically back in square one again. When we think about it, like, and I know that I'm not really back in square one again, right? Like, I have a lot of information. I know a lot of things that I didn't know back then. I have way more awareness about myself and who I am and what I need, and I have a much stronger foundation now than I ever had. But at the same time, it is very much this is a whole new life, and it's kind of like being a whole new person. So I'm using my tools. I am using all of my, okay, I just need to slow down. I need to unlearn how to push through pain and just keep going, because that's a skill that I now have that is maybe a little unhealthy and a little unbalanced. And learning how to notice when things are too harsh. I feel like this is a big part of the new learning that I'm doing now, is noticing when things are just too much and too harsh, and the pushing isn't actually the best thing to do. Learning how to be gentle and how to be soft, and how to say no when no is a no, and how to, because really, like, I will say that I made the mistake of diving head first back into work right after surgery. Like, literally the week after surgery I acted like nothing had happened, and there was that big part of me that wanted to just go back to my routine, and wanted to just go back to my schedule, and wanted to just go back to life as normal, because, like I said, that was sort of my security blanket for a very, very long time. So I went too hard, and it was a pretty rough week of absolutely overdoing it. And so again, I'm learning to slow down, and I'm learning that this, like, right, I'm back in square one. I can't be doing what I used to do. And so this is what I want to say to anyone who's just been through a major life transition, because sometimes, right, we go through stuff. We go through a divorce, we go through a job loss, we go through a breakup, we go through having a baby, like, something changes in our life that's really big. And it forces us into this place where what used to work doesn't work anymore, and what used to be relevant isn't relevant anymore, and what used to be how we functioned isn't how we function anymore. And so learning to be very grateful for that person who was able to do what they did for as long as you were doing it, in that old way, in that old life. But then understanding that there's gonna be this now period of time where you're in the dark, because that's where I am, right? Like, it's very, the light is just on the next step ahead. And this is something that I have talked about in my content for a long, 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 long time. And again, something that I'm now practicing what I'm preaching, in that I can't make a 5-year plan from here, right? I can't plan 6 months out. I don't know what my routine is going to look like, because I literally just went through something so life shifting that I am refiguring out what life looks like on a day-to-day basis here. And learning that that is okay. Okay? That it is okay to not know. This has been one of the biggest things, the gifts that I've been giving myself on this self-love path, is I'm laying in bed at night going, okay, what is my day going to look like tomorrow? And having to be a little bit okay with, I don't really know. I can't fully make a plan. And again, as someone who lived her life by a schedule, that is a huge shift. And learning to take things one step at a time and just see what the results are. That is my biggest thing that I can offer anyone out there who doesn't know what you want from your life, who doesn't know how to move forward, who doesn't know like what works for you. If you're in any kind of place with your health, your mental health, your spirituality, your work, your relationships, and you're like, I don't know what's going to work. I don't know what the right steps are. I don't know what the right answer is. This is where we want to slow way down and be really conscious of how things feel while we're doing them. That we're not going to have the 10-year plan. We're not going to have how it's all going to work out. I don't know what this is all going to look like. All I know is today. What are the things that I did that felt good, that worked, that gave good results? What are the things that didn't feel good, that didn't work, that didn't give good results? I'm learning from reality, one step at a time. Right? So people ask me, like, where does my guidance come from? How do you know how to follow your intuition? How do you know when your intuition is talking to you? How do you know when God is talking to you? This is how you know. You get really into how things feel. That being the biggest one, right? And this is something that I have honed as a skill over the last 10 years that is really, really serving me now. Is there are 1.5 million suggestions out there of what I should do and what I should eat and how I should move my body and all of these things. And at the end of the day, I have to make a decision for myself about what is and isn't best for me. And over the last 10 years, right, having a completely impossible condition and managing it as well as I have, the only way I've been able to do that is because I have felt my feelings. I have felt what feels good. I have felt what doesn't feel good. And I have followed the things that have worked. And I have been absolutely willing at every turn to question my perception. Okay? We all have ideas and we all have theories and we all have conditioning and indoctrinating that tells us this is how reality works. This is what is the right thing. This is what is good. This is what is bad. This is what everyone else thinks. This is what everyone else thinks you should do. This is what everyone else is doing. Is intuition God speaking to us, or are they different? I think it's all the same thing, to be honest. But that's just my experience. And at the end of the day, again, like, to get to where I am in my life, even just with my career and where I live and having the visa that I have and all of this stuff, it was literally feeling it out one step at a time and constantly being presented with several options of what I could do and choosing the one that felt the closest to freedom. Just choosing the one that felt the closest to freedom and then taking the step, being willing to take the step, and then see how it goes. Okay? Because not every one of my steps, not every one of my intuitions, not every one of my things that I have done immediately worked out and everything was great. A lot of the time, you take a step and it's it gives you a totally different result than you thought you were going to get. And it's not that the result is bad. It's not that, it's just that it doesn't go how you thought it was going to go, right? So I can say, to get to where I am today, from living in my apartment in closest to freedom, love that. Yes, this is how you determine what feels like freedom in your body versus what feels like constriction. And then a lot of the time, following your intuition means following something that feels like freedom, but it doesn't necessarily feel good. Okay, there's like a big difference between what feels comfortable and familiar to our nervous systems and what feels like what is going to get us approval and what other people are going to understand, the consensus reality pleasure, versus what actually feels like freedom to us. Okay, so a lot of my life and a lot of the steps that I have taken and a lot of the things that I have done have been very scary and contrary to popular opinion, and got me a lot of flack and a lot of pushback and a lot of people not thinking and believing in me, and a lot of having to do things on my own and knowing that it was going to be bumpy and that it was going to be messy and that it wasn't going to be straightforward, and having to figure it out as I went, and that being the right thing. Okay, so like, I don't want to paint this picture that like following intuition and following your feelings and following what feels like freedom is easy and that it always equals the best result that you want. It doesn't. It usually ends up being that the path is far more complicated, and there's way more steps, and there's way more having to do things that other people don't accept and that they reject and that they misunderstand, right? Like, I've been literally making these videos. Messy helps us learn so much. Exactly. I've been making these videos for years. And for the entire time that I've been on the internet, I've been accused of being delusional and just having an eating disorder, right? And though my message has been very consistent and clean and clear this entire time, and though I wasn't able to share why I had to be so weird and different and doing things differently and why I couldn't look normal, I had to follow what felt right for me. And I did, and it was hard and it was scary and I looked weird, and people, right, it has probably dramatically hindered how much growth I could have had with this business. And even with my business, and how much I have refused to do things that have, to me, felt like selling out and felt like it wouldn't have served the message and it wouldn't have served the people that I'm trying to serve. How much I've sacrificed in terms of growth and probably revenue and all of these things, because I have to follow what feels like freedom. And what feels like freedom is usually not what aligned with my conditioning and with what aligned with what made people approve of me and what made people understand me. And so it has been a lot of figuring it out on my own, being misunderstood, being told that I'm crazy and delusional and anorexic and all of these things, and then now kind of being justified and it all being kind of coming out in the wash that I wasn't crazy and I wasn't delusional and I wasn't lying to all of you. But that took years and years and years and years and years, and I continued to show up even though I couldn't be justified and validated in that way up until now. And like, again, so like I say, moving forward is a lot of feeling what freedom feels like, and following usually the scariest path, taking the scariest steps, and doing it one step at a time, and learning to catch yourself, learning to be on your own side when it's messier than you thought it was going to be, when there's more steps than you thought there were going to be, when it's more chaotic than you thought it was going to be, and learning from all of that, right? So I never look at anything that I go through as a mistake. It's literally, okay, what happened there? Why did that happen? What did I just learn? Like, I'm so glad I made so many of the mistakes and followed the steps of freedom that I followed, that led me to more complication and led me away from my conditioning and led me away from what everyone else was doing into the literal wilderness, where it was, I stepped on branches and I got thorns in my side and I got bit by snakes, because that's the path. It's messy and it's confusing, and my journey isn't going to be clean. And so this is why I'm saying, like, I can't promise you I'm now just going to gain weight and look normal and everything's going to be great and I'm going to be socially acceptable. I'm probably never going to look socially acceptable. I'm probably never going to follow a diet that everyone would be like, yes, that's a reasonable diet. I'm probably never going to have a lifestyle that's normal to people. I'm always going to be a freak. And I'm okay with that now. I'm really totally settled in that. And I'm going to continue to challenge my own perceptions. And I'm literally, like I say, back in a square one where this is all messy again. And the order that I had in my life before, I don't have anymore. And that is okay, because I'm okay with the mess. I'm more okay with the mess now than I've ever been. And I'm okay to trust myself. And I know I'm going to figure it out one step at a time. Okay, so I'm needing to figure out how to navigate life without a full-time job because I'm too burned out to go on in the same way. You're right, it's messy and scary. Exactly this. And right, so like to leave the full-time job feels like freedom, but then it's going to equal a bunch of messy, complicated steps that we then have to figure out one step at a time. And we figure it out through not abandoning ourselves. We figure it out through being on our own side and saying, every step I take, I'm going to feel what that felt like first. I'm going to assess, was that a consensus reality pleasure or was that a real reality pleasure? Was that consensus reality pain or was that real reality pain? What was the actual outcome? And how do I balance living for what is true to my humanity while operating within a system that is totally anti-humane? Because that's another thing that I have to work on too with this business, right? Is that I am going to be hypocritical every single day that I do this work. Because honestly, in order to charge money for like healing work, I think is anti-humane. I think that should just be something that we all have access to, and there should be no paywall. And that's why I try to give away as much content as I can for free. But at the same time, like, I have coaching sessions and I don't do them for free. And that's part of the shit of this world. Do you see what I'm saying? So figuring out how to balance our humanity with the systems that we live in, and to rebel against the system as much as we can without causing harm to ourselves, that looks different on all of us. That's a whole thing we have to figure out. What's the closest thing I can do to freedom right now? And it might not be perfect. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is like, this is not going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect for me. It's not going to be perfect for you. Figuring out how to move forward from a significant life change, figuring out how to find what feels good for you in your life, figuring out your next steps is all about embracing the mess. And then, and again, right, the kind of paradox of looking for the order. Like, we're always moving towards more order. We're moving towards more complexity. We're moving towards creating a life that has more structure and more predictability and more stability and more freedom because of those things. We don't want to be moving from chaos to chaos to chaos to chaos to chaos. If that's what we're doing, that means we're not learning. Yes? But so things should overarchingly be getting more complex and more ordered. While we understand that there are going to be periods of time of big mess and big turning things over and big having to stir the pot a lot to get to that order, right? Like, sometimes we have to dig up the foundation, the rotten foundation, before we're going to be able to lay down the new clean one. And we have to do the autopsy before we understand what killed the human. And everything looks like a big mess for a while. And so learning to navigate that and learn from it. So just because that paradox exists and causes some cognitive dissonance doesn't mean that we're bad. And we're not here to be good. We're here to be fully us, not the conditioned version. Exactly. Right? So this is what learning from reality looks like. This is what the self-love path looks like. Is sometimes on the self-love path, we're going to have the 10-year vision. We're going to have the I know what I want. And we're going to have steps are clear. And sometimes the steps are going to be really easy and light and fun to take. And sometimes it's going to be very dark and very wildernessy and very unpredictable. And we're taking it one day at a time. We're taking it one thing at a time. And we just have to be present with that. And we have to learn how to not abandon ourselves and not abandon the situation. Right? So really being on top of our thinking. Like, I don't sit there and say, okay, I made a huge mistake. I fucked it up. I'm never going to be well again. Right? On these days that I've had that have been absolutely awful. There has absolutely been the temptation to be like, I'm never going to get better. This wasn't worth it. But in real reality, I know that that's not true. In real reality, it's okay, no. What did I just learn? That supplement is way too harsh. Don't take it again. That method of eating didn't work. That did. I'm not allergic to that anymore. Great. And also understanding that we are going to have to take scary steps. Okay, so I was just about to answer your question. How do you find safety within yourself when the wilderness season? This is the thing. You're not going to find safety in the external. This is where the self-love path comes in. This is where the self-love path, where you know that no matter what happens, you can have those foundational curiosity and compassion for yourself tools. This is what I teach in the mystery school. This is what we do in my one-on-one coaching. These foundations of learning how to be on your own side, no matter what's happening to you in the world around you. That is really the foundational work that makes it so that we can do all these other things that I've said in this video. The only reason I am able to do what I am doing right now is because I am unwaveringly on my own side. No matter the shitty comments I get, no matter how much Marcus disagrees with me, no matter how much what I do causes pain and chaos, I am on my own side. I have compassion for myself, and I have curiosity. What led me to make that choice? Where did that come from? What did it feel like? What was the outcome? What can I do to support myself right now? Never attempting to fix myself. And this is, we build this self-trust through practicing it. I trust myself because I have trusted myself, if that makes sense. I didn't wait until I was trustworthy. I didn't wait until I had all the answers. I learned to question myself, or I learned to trust myself by taking steps and then figuring it out as I went. Not abandoning myself, not giving up when things got hard, not turning away and just saying, oh, that must have been wrong, or it didn't go how I thought it was going to go, so I'm fucked. But being like, no, what did I just learn? What did I just observe? What did I just go through? How was it the best that I knew at the time? What was I not seeing? What was my perception before? What is my perception now? Right? Like, learning to love myself enough that my ideas and what I thought are not my identity. So I can make a mistake, or I could have been wrong, or life goes a different way than I thought it was going to go. And that doesn't mean that I'm wrong or bad or shameful. And again, right, this is what I teach. This is what I preach. I can't just put it in a single video. That's why I have a billion videos. That's why the mystery school is 4 years long. That's why one-on-one coaching happens. Because learning to not shame and blame and guilt ourselves is a huge, huge thing to do. There isn't a one thing that we do that makes it so that we don't do that anymore. Okay? That's a skill we learn. That's a skill we master. That when we go into that shame and blame and guilt, we learn how to approach that with, okay, no, what am I actually feeling? What did I just experience, and what did I just learn? How can I be on my own side right now? So I think the question underneath the question is, why are we afraid of the wilderness? Sometimes we have to be like turtles. They carry their home and safety wherever they go, even in the wilderness. Well, because, right, like that's a very reasonable survival instinct. Safety, familiarity, and predictability is where we know we're going to survive the best. It's very natural to fear the wilderness, and it's very normal to fear the wilderness. And that's why, again, I teach these self-love tools, which they're not going to make you have no fear. They're not going to transform your life so that every step that you take is perfect. They're going to help you navigate the wilderness. Because the wilderness is going to happen to all of us, whether we like it or not. And so I give you tools to work through it. I don't tell you that I can help you avoid it. I don't tell you I can make it not messy and perfect. I can give you tools to work through it, to get through it, to move through it with the most amount of compassion for yourself and the most amount of being on your own side and the most amount of figuring it out as you go, so that the wilderness isn't a wasted time, right? We don't want to waste our time in the wilderness, shaming and blaming and guilting ourselves for when things don't go how we thought they were going to go, because they're mostly not going to go how we thought they were going to go. We're going to go through the mess first, and that's how we're going to find the order. But if we abandon ourselves and we shame ourselves and we blame ourselves in the mess, we will never find the order. Because then we're stuck in a loop that we can't ever get out of. We can't be our own safe place, and then we can't learn. Being our own safe place is the foundation. So that's why, again, moving forward, I'm just going to keep talking about what I've always been talking about. I'm going to keep promoting the mystery school. I'm going to keep promoting working with me one-on-one. I'm going to keep promoting my YouTube channel. I'm going to keep promoting my blog, because this foundational work of learning how to stop shaming and blaming and guilting ourselves is how we figure out our next steps, is how we learn to trust ourselves, is how we learn to navigate everything. It's shame, blame, and guilt are always lies. That's the foundation of this self-love work. Okay? So yes, this is key. I have to stop shaming my mistakes. And learning to do that is hard. That's why, again, I say the mystery school is 4 years long. Because learning to stop shaming and blaming ourselves is not something we do overnight. I didn't do it overnight. It's practices. And I give you 1.5 million tools to help you with that. And working sometimes one-on-one with someone where they can say, okay, this is the thing you're having shame about, and you tell me about it, and I'm like, that's not shameful. What are you really feeling? What's actually going on for you? And I help you go deep into that. That's what we do in coaching. And then you figure out your answers, right? I don't tell people what to do. I don't tell people what their next steps are. They figure that out. I just give them the tools to figure it out. You have the answers, and it's under your shame, blame, and guilt. Okay? So, I'm probably not going to be talking about my personal health for a while. I'm going to look weird and scary, and I have no idea how the weight gain is going to go, how the eating is going to go, what diet I'm going to be on. I don't know. And I don't really want to share about it. Because, again, I am not an expert at what this is going to be for me now. And so that's my boundary. So if people are going to be asking me what I'm eating now, people are going to be asking me if I'm gaining weight, people are going to probably still make eating disorder comments and stuff, I'm just not going to answer, because I'm in the wilderness too. And I'm figuring it out. And I've figured out a lot of things up till now. I've kept myself in a really great state, given how deeply not okay I was. I trust myself. And if you think I'm delusional and if how I look detracts from being able to listen to my message, that's on you. That's fine. I understand. Go find someone else who teaches self-love, who you resonate with, who looks how you want them to look. And that's okay, right? I understand. But I can make no promises about how I'm going to look or what I'm going to eat or what I'm going to do. And at the end of the day, right, like everyone has had their suggestions for me over the last 10 years. I have been diagnosed with literally everything. And I have been told this is your solution and this is what you should do. And literally no one was ever right. No one has ever given me a piece of advice from the internet that I followed or that was true or that had anything to do with me. So I'm going to say, right, if you have something to say to me, you keep it to yourself. Like, honestly. And this is what I would say to everyone on the internet. Unless you know somebody deeply, unless you're in their personal life, you probably don't have advice to give them. You probably don't know what you're talking about. As much as you might be able to think, I know what they're going through, I can tell, I can look at, maybe you're right. But at the end of the day, you don't know them. You never really know what someone is going through. No one was ever able to say, hey, maybe you have superior mesenteric artery syndrome. And that's what's going on with you. And this is how you should eat for that. I figured that out. Okay? So that's my boundary moving forward. I trust myself. I'm going to figure it out. I'm telling you I'm not delusional and just having an eating disorder. You can believe me or not. It doesn't really matter. That's not the point of this content. The point of this content is I want to teach adults how to stop shaming, blaming, and guilting themselves so that they can start to learn how to reconnect with their own humanity, and so we can find a better way of this world. I believe that this self-love path is the societal revolution we need. So that's what all of my videos moving forward are going to be about. I might do an update every couple of years, or if something changes, or if I have some massive revelation that I think would be helpful. But other than that, we're not going to be talking about this much anymore. And I'm not going to be accepting suggestions. And if I want to work with you as a practitioner, I will hire you. And other than that, follow the content because the content serves you, or don't. And that's my boundary. Okay? So I hope this was helpful. Come join the school. Watch the YouTube videos. Read the blogs. Reach out for coaching if this path calls to you. If not, I totally understand. And I love you and I think you're great. And that's all I have to say today. Okay? Anything else before we wrap up? Yeah. So yeah, I'll be putting out a new video on YouTube on Friday from before the diagnosis. I'm going to look weird, and it is what it is. Okay? All right. So thank you all for being here. Main message as always. Life is always going to be messy. The self-love path does not take away the mess. The self-love path helps us to navigate the mess and to create order from the mess where we can. And to create better and better and better and better. Not perfect, but better through self-support and self-awareness. I'm always happy when you're here too. Okay? And true self-awareness, if it's not founded in compassion, is not true self-awareness. And I will say that till the day that I die. If your self-awareness is not founded in compassion, it is not true self-awareness. Okay? So that's my message to you. And today's my birthday. So if you can give me a birthday gift, I hope today you practice being on your own side and giving yourself the benefit of the doubt and assuming that everything that you're doing for a good reason. And you live from a place of how can I support myself instead of how can I fix myself? Because you're not broken and there's nothing wrong with you. Okay? Thank you. You're not broken and there's nothing wrong with you. And you can figure it out. And you can learn to trust yourself. And you can navigate the wilderness. You can. Thank you, everyone. Okay? Thank you for being here. And I'll see you on Friday. Back to our regular scheduled program. And then, for all next month, I'll be back at my lives, doing normal live stuff, talking about this path, talking about the system, and that's what we're going to do. Okay? Okay. Have a good day, night, morning, and I'll see you when I see you.